Um, we're going to start off with a presentation and some comments from one of our panelists, David Klein, from a company called Securitech. And David's going to demonstrate their products for us here in a few moments. As we go, I have a participants list up here so I can see your hands. If you have a question, feel free to raise your virtual hand because I can't see your video. And or if you have a question, you want to type it in the chat, I'll stop and try to address your question as best I can. Or David will do so. So to begin, share my screen with everyone. So as we mentioned, what we're going to discuss are safe and secure lockdown solutions from a variety of manufacturers, as well as some standalone electronic solutions later in the program. Just a little bit about myself. As a father of two school-age daughters, providing them with a safe environment both at home and at school has always been important to my wife and I, as it would be for any parent. Having worked in the hardware industry for about 18 years, my attention to what is being done in public places of assembly and commercial environments has always been top of mind for me. So I tend to oftentimes look at the door hardware that's on doors as I go into buildings, as perhaps many of you likely do as well. Especially so with the rise in violent crime that our society has experienced over the last few decades. 23 years ago, the Columbine High School tragedy caused the door and hardware industry to look at innovating the hardware that was used on classroom doors. And the reason for that, we will elaborate on here in a few moments. But since that tragic event, our society has suffered numerous similar tragedies, such as the Sandy Hook Elementary School tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut, the Stoneman Douglas High School tragedy in Parkland, Florida, and just earlier this year, back in May, the Robb Elementary School tragedy in Uvalde, Texas. These terrible tragedies have given rise to unsafe solutions being created by those who perhaps don't know better and perhaps are looking to capitalize without consideration to the consequences. Barricade devices like those shown here have been developed as cheap alternatives to secure doors in schools, places of worship, and other places of public assembly in the event of a threat. However, these solutions are not compliant with fire and building codes. They are also dangerous because they create the possibility that there could be a hostage situation and victimization in schools where a student or a teacher or staff member could be beaten, raped, or even murdered is much more likely to occur than a school shooting. Regarding what took place in Uvalde, it was not a barricade device, though, that was used in that situation. It was just poor maintenance of the doors and the hardware, as well as a casual approach to the school security. You can see here a quote from that report. But what I'd like to do now is read to you a brief portion of that report from the Robb Elementary Investigative Committee that was assigned to investigate that tragedy by the Texas House of Representatives. On page 6 of the report, it said, while the school had adopted security policies to lock exterior doors and internal classroom doors, there was a regrettable culture of non-compliance by school personnel who frequently propped doors open and deliberately circumvented locks. At a minimum, school administrators and school district police tacitly condoned this behavior as they were aware of these unsafe practices and did not treat them as serious infractions, requiring immediate correction. In fact, the school actually suggested circumventing the locks as a solution for the convenience of substitute teachers and others who lack their own keys. The school district did not treat the maintenance of doors and locks with appropriate urgency. In particular, staff and students widely knew that the door to one of the victimized classrooms, room 111, was ordinarily unsecured and accessible. Room 111 could be locked, but an extra effort was required to make sure the latch engaged. Many knew room 111's door had a faulty lock, and school district police had specifically warned the teacher about it. The problem with locking the door had been reported to school administration, yet no one placed a written work order for the repair. Another factor contributing to relaxed vigilance on campus was the frequency of security alerts and campus lockdowns resulting from a recent rise of bailouts. The term used in border communities for the increasing frequent occurrence of human traffickers trying to outrun the police, usually ending with a smuggler crashing the vehicle and the passengers fleeing in all directions. The frequency of these bailouts related alarms, around 50 of them between February and May of 2022, contributed to a diminished sense of vigilance about responding to the security alerts. That was what was written in the report of that investigative committee. But it's this lack of vigilance and the casual approach to the maintenance of the doors and the hardware in our schools that contributes to using unsafe, cheap, and dangerous products like these barricade devices, rather than doing the right thing and using hardware that meets life and safety codes and standards. It's really ignorance on the part of many who think that these things are okay. We mentioned earlier the couple of the other tragedies that have occurred, including the one just yesterday in St. Louis. What investigators have found, and specifically following the Sandy Hook incident, this was in the report, that there has never been an incident where an active shooter breached a locked classroom door. And we say that a locked classroom door. Of course, we know in that incident, the shooter shot through the glass at the main entrance and got into the school. But never has there been an incident where an active shooter breached a locked classroom door. Yesterday, after the shooting in St. Louis, I was reading an article about what took place there at the Central Visual and Performing Arts High School. And a ninth grader in the school, a girl named Nyla Jones, was reported to have said that she was in math class when the shooter fired into the room from the hallway, but could not get into the classroom. Students piled into the corner of the room and tried not to move as the shooter banged on the door. This indicates to us that the classroom door was secured and locked, and the students were safe. Locking or securing a door continues to be the safest way to mitigate these tragedies from becoming a conflagration, if you will. I say it that way because the sad truth is that these tragedies will continue to occur. The best we can do is minimize the loss. But we need to be vigilant. We need to not have a casual attitude about maintaining the doors and the hardware of our schools or places of worship or other public places of assembly. And we need to use the right solutions and not have a casual attitude that perhaps we live in Mayberry and this is never going to happen, but rather take the necessary steps, have the standard operating procedures in place to protect the occupants of our buildings. Now, what we're going to present here first are a few mechanical solutions that can safely secure a room in a threatening situation without causing a life safety situation like those barricade devices could. This first example is what the door hardware industry developed following the Columbine school shooting. What this lock is an intruder or classroom function lock, which most manufacturers of commercial door hardware make. This function was created because on a typical classroom function lock, the outside lever is locked or unlocked by a key, and a teacher or someone with a key would need to enter the hallway to lock the outside lever to secure the room. And in the process of doing that, they might expose themselves to the threat that might be in the hallway or the active shooter. However, using this intruder function or classroom security function lock set can equally be challenging. Because imagine trying to use a key during a high stress, highly anxious situation and putting that key into a slot in the correct direction, and that slot is only a few millimeters wide. And then you have to make sure that you turn the key the right way and have the assurance that you did so, that the outside lever is now locked. This creates a lot of failure points. Therefore, many manufacturers have started adding indicators to the hardware on the inside, perhaps a visual indicator or an embossed indicator on the rows, indicating to the individual in the room which way they need to turn that key. Now, this has contributed greatly to minimizing the amount of graffiti in our schools, because now on the classroom doors, teachers and staff do not have to draw arrows indicating which way to turn the key. But some school districts have chosen to simply replace the door hardware on the classrooms with one of the following lock functions. Now, this lock function is an office or dormitory function lock, which means simply that there's a button or a thumb turn on the inside that can be pushed or turned to lock the outside lever. Now, of course, anyone could lock the door, but here's where responsible administration for any type of building, place of worship, school, or other place of assembly would make sure that the staff or authorized individuals in the building always carried a key that could unlock a door that was perhaps inadvertently locked or locked by someone with ill intent, so that they could get into the room. Using this type of lock at a college or university would eliminate images like this. These pictures are from the news reports of the campus shooting in 2016 that occurred at the University, UCLA, University of California in LA. Students here were not able to secure the doors of the classrooms or the labs that they were in, or whatever room it might have been, so what they did was they took whatever they could from the room to barricade or try to secure the door. Chairs, desks, cables from computers or printers were used to wrap around the closer arms of the door, whatever they could do to secure the door. However, if door hardware that could be safely and simply locked by anyone without prior knowledge had been used on a door like this, then anyone in the room could protect themselves and the other occupants safely. Now, some facilities have simply chosen to replace the door hardware with this type of function lock set, a storeroom function lock. Now, this lock always remains locked. These are the types of locks that you oftentimes find on closets where you don't want the general public to gain access to. So these locks are always locked from the outside. Using a lock like this on a classroom or a room that's being used by certain occupants, those occupants can have peace of mind knowing that they are secure in the room from outside threats. Now, at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And we're going to introduce David Klein from Securitech, who's going to tell you about two products that they make, mechanical products that have been designed to lock down and secure a room.
Okay, thank you, Roland. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. We do have a little technical glitch. So the two locks that you do see on your screen are actually in my factory, and I'm working remotely. UPS decided that the drizzle was too harsh for them to come out yesterday to deliver my samples. So I'll run through these products with the help of Sadiq in my office there, and we'll get going. So on the left is a product we call the Safe Bolt. The Safe Bolt was created to add to an existing cylindrical latch lock, like Roland pointed out in the last few slides. They may have the push button, may have a key on the interior side, different variations. So we created the Safe Bolt to retrofit onto an existing cylindrical latch lock. And you notice on the door, the little cylinder that's being drawn back in, or latch as it's called, is really doesn't afford you a very high level of security. So Sadiq is going to close the door, and he's going to demonstrate pushing the red button. Now, once he pressed that red button, you notice that the indicator went from white to red to indicate visually that the locking bolt was projected into the frame. And we'll show you the locking bolt in a second. And now the door not only has the latch in the frame, but it also has a stainless steel locking bolt that was projected into the frame. Sadiq, if you don't mind opening the door and press the button again with the door open so everybody can see the locking bolt. So that bolt would go into the receptacle that is bolted onto the frame of the door. So it's going to give you a much higher level of security. What you won't be able to see, just because of the camera location, is on the exterior side of the Safe Bolt is a cylinder that first responders or authorized personnel can always gain entrance into the classroom. So no one is ever trapped inside the classroom. Sadiq, engage the lever again to show how you can retract everything. So to retract the locking bolt, once it's projected, all you do is activate the lever like you normally would. So this meets all the local fire codes nationwide. The term is known as single motion egress. You're only doing one thing to exit the classroom. Sadiq will demonstrate it again. So in one motion, you notice the latch and the locking bolt are retracted. So again, that is key to keeping things code compliant, where the other products that were on the slides a few minutes ago are products that do not allow people from the outside, first responders or authorized staff, to gain entrance to the classroom once the incident is taken care of. All right, so with that being said, we're going to jump over to the other display. This display is known as the QID, or Quick Intruder Deadbolt. It was really the first lock that we did bring to market almost 20 years ago for these emergency lockdowns. And the basis of the red button locks is simple. Pressing the red button again on the QID, stainless steel locking bolt will project into the frame to secure the classroom. And again, you'll have the visual indicator going from white to red. And then, of course, the single motion egress, allowing anybody inside the classroom to always be able to get out of the classroom. And in this one, we can spin it around. So Sadiq will show that on the exterior side, there is a cylinder. So again, authorized personnel or first responders can always gain entrance. Oh yeah, Sadiq's also noting that on the QID, once you press the red button, you automatically lock out the outside lever. And he'll show you another feature on the QID, our Vander resistant clutch, which is going to hurt his hand a little bit, but show everybody how if somebody tries to break the lever off the QID, it'll just break away, and when necessary, it just snaps right back into place. So the lock will continue to function as it was supposed to function. We do have some other products for multiple doors to lock down. Let's say you have a gymnasium or cafeteria or exit device doors. We have a product called the Lexi Lockdown, where we can electrically lock down multiple doors with a push of a button. Roland has all this information. He'll be able to forward it to anybody that requires it for any additional knowledge. And he'll also have my contact information he can send out. So if anybody has any other questions, maybe not today or maybe tomorrow, you can reach out to us and we can definitely help you out. Again, one of the most important things also is noting that little sticker on the QID. The Department of Homeland Security put out a primer actually in January of 2012. That was 11 months before the unfortunate incident at Sandy Hook. And it basically put out their recommendations for hospitals, train stations, airports, and schools on how to properly secure and what measures the schools should take and the hospitals should take, corporations should take, and transit authorities like that in properly securing doors. So that's always a good resource for important information. And again, they're always stressing the most important thing, code compliance. You never want to trap anybody in a classroom or put their lives in danger by using a non-code compliant product. One more little fact is that if grant money is used for any of these products, the states and the federal government do have a disclaimer that the monies that they provide for increasing security to classrooms is you can only use a code compliant product. So anytime a jurisdiction will use a non-code compliant product, they have the risk of forfeiting all the funds that were granted to them for these security increases. All right. So with that being said, I hope I covered everything for everybody, and I'll still be here for any questions that might come up later. I'll pass it back to Roland. And thank you, Sadiq, for helping out.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Sadiq, for demonstrating that product. As you should be able to see now on the monitor, the SecureTech Safe Lock product is a product available through Banner Solutions to your local reseller. And as David mentioned in his presentation, we want to choose safe and secure door hardware solutions like the Safe Bolt or the QID or other hardware that is safe and secure, that meets life safety and building codes. We do not want to choose cheap or dangerous alternatives that could contribute to greater loss. The QID product, as well as I believe the Safe Bolt, have both also received awards from Campus Safety Organization for the design and functionality of their solution. Now, all the products we've shown you so far or thus far in the presentation are cylindrical locks or mortise locks. David touched on electrified exit devices and the capability that SecureTech has with that. Now, larger areas of assembly, such as a lecture hall, an auditorium, or a gymnasium, typically require exit device hardware or panic exit device hardware because of the potential for an increased occupant load in those types of spaces. Now, locking out a threat from gaining access to such a space might be a challenge, but most hardware companies have created an intruder function exit device, like the intruder function lock sets that we were talking about earlier, that can be secured by a key from the inside. Now, this product that we're showing you today is from Trimco. This product was designed that in the event of an emergency, it does not require a key or a hex wrench to lock down an exit device from inside. You simply push the button on the end cap of the device, as you see here, where the words Trimco appear. And this product, called the LDH, or Lockdown Hardware 100, and the exit device automatically lock. The lockdown hardware is easily installed without special tools or without having to remove the exit device from the door. So it makes an excellent alternative for lockdown solutions for school perimeter doors, classrooms, banquet halls, and government facilities and other locations where exit devices are required. Now, the next couple of products that we are going to touch on are electronic standalone solutions. The first one is the Alarm Lock DL2700 LD, LD being for lockdown. Now, as it indicates, at the first sign of trouble outside, just pressing one button without any special training or knowledge required, faculty and or students can simply press the inside privacy lock button on this lock and lock out unauthorized access from the classroom or the room that they are in, all while remaining safe within the classroom. There's no need to open the door, use a special key. It's simply a fingertip activated button located on the inside of the door, the same side as the occupants of the room. When this button is pressed, it automatically disables free passage through the door and even locks out general user PIN codes that have been programmed into the lock set. And there's a visual indicator on the inside of the door. That flashing LED will indicate that the door is locked. Now, instantly, a lockdown override code will reactivate the push button keypad, enabling first responders or authorized teachers and staff that are outside the classroom to bypass the lock and get into the room, should the students or someone in the room accidentally or purposefully activate that lockdown mode. The next product is from Allegion. This is the Schlage CO220. It is also an offline classroom lockdown solution that enables immediate lockdown of up to 10 CO220 locks should an emergency arise. Using a remote fob worn by the teacher, a lockdown can occur within 2 seconds by pressing the button on that fob. An LED visual indicator on the inside, the classroom side of the door, continually signals the lockdown solution, indicating to the occupants of the room that the door is secure and they can stay at a safe distance from it. This lock provides a code compliant solution, always enabling free egress and not creating a barricade type situation. It's a simple lock, easy to manage, and less costly than perhaps a networked access control system. It's programmed locally using the Schlage utility software and a plug-in cable programmed at the door with a laptop or some other type of device like that. It supports credentials, pins, proximity readers. It has a proximity reader in it as well. And it also provides multi-factor authentication for additional security. The last electronic access control solution that we are going to discuss is manufactured by Best. The shelter lockdown solution from Best is a responsive lockdown solution using the Best cylindrical or mortise lock hardware. With the push of a button on a fob, shelter will lock down a group of doors, or the entire building, depending on how the fob is programmed. The Best cylindrical and mortise locks are classroom function lock sets. And we talked about what a classroom function lock is earlier. In the event of a lockdown, the lock will transition when it receives that wireless signal to a storeroom function lock. The LED indicator on the inside of the door, as shown in this image, will initially flash for 1 minute during that lockdown, and then it will flash a couple of times each minute afterward for 1 hour. Hopefully at that point, everything has been cleared, but it will continue to flash even after that hour. However, the beacon time increases to preserve battery life. Now, this system requires a gateway for communication from the fob to the lock sets. And with repeaters in the building, they can shelter repeaters. They can extend the wireless communication as well as provide a switch or relay interface capable of connecting this solution to other systems or hardwired devices, such as electrified exit devices. With assistance from your local integrator or integration resource, the shelter network components can be configured to allow the fob to initiate a signal to your existing access control system or alarm system, notifying first responders. Now, in addition to these products, there are a number of excellent resources available online to provide further information and education about products and solutions that are code compliant and meet life safety codes. The Door Security and Safety Foundation promotes secure and safe openings that improves life safety through awareness, education, and advocacy. Their website, lockdon'tblock.org, provides resources to guide decisions about what solutions are safe and provide proper protection to secure buildings and their users. Melanie Whalen, and hopefully I pronounced her name correctly, she published an article in the journal Doors and Hardware that nicely explains the various functions of mechanical locking hardware, as we touched upon earlier in this presentation. She also addresses the pros and cons of the various different functions of mechanical hardware and explains the differences between fail-safe and fail-secure electrified lock sets. So I would encourage you to take a moment and read that article. Also, Lori Green, manager for codes and resources at Allegion, has published numerous informative articles that educate and inform on her website, idighardware.com. People who are responsible for maintaining and securing places of worship, school officials, and others are bombarded with products and solutions aimed at protecting and securing those using the buildings. Most of these solutions are valid and beneficial to schools. However, it's very hard for someone who is not a security or safety professional or not knowledgeable about code compliant door hardware to analyze all the solutions that are out there. It can be overwhelming and it can be stressful. We recognize this and we want to help. The solutions presented during this webinar are all available from Banner through your local supplier. We're here to help you evaluate and suggest safe and secure ways to make the occupants of your facility or your feel at ease. We can work closely with your local supplier and the manufacturer, whichever one you choose, to create a locked door to protect the congregants in your building so that their education or reason for being there is your top priority. This time, we appreciate you taking the time to consider the solutions with us this afternoon. And I'm going to end sharing my screen so that we can answer any questions that you might have. If you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat. Or if you know how to raise your virtual hand, you can do that by clicking on the reactions button at the bottom of the screen and raising your hand. Our host today, Travis Howell, has posted the links that were presented at the end of the presentation in the chat, if you'd like to take a look at those online.
And also, I'll just mention that we will follow up with an email to everybody with a recording of this session, as well as a PDF of the presentation.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you, Travis.
Well, we allotted 45 minutes for the presentation. We're now 37 minutes into the webinar. I don't see any hands. Let me make sure. Yep. And I don't see any questions. But as Travis mentioned, we are going to share the presentation that was given today. My name and my phone number, my email address are on the last page of that presentation. You also have some contact information for us here at Banner. So feel free to reach out at any time. And David's information will be included in the packet of information that we will email out to everyone. Again, we thank you for joining us this afternoon. Have a great and safe day.